I just want to give an update to the country on the events which occurred earlier today. As Jamaicans would be aware that an earthquake of a magnitude of 7.7 was recorded in the Cuban region. This earthquake had significant impact on us here in Jamaica. As a matter of fact, this earthquake was felt right across the entire country, and it has had rippling effects on the population. I know, especially in the parish of Westmoreland, that there are over some 20 students which is presently seeking medical attention at the Savlamar Hospital. Some of them have been affected by heart conditions and other related situations because of the earthquake. We have reports of damage to buildings in the parishes of Hanover, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. But overall, the reports that we have been getting coming out of all the parishes that the earthquake was felt and was felt severely in some parishes. So far, we have not had any reports of any injury as an outcome of the earthquake. The tsunami warning which was issued by the United States, who has the mechanism to read and to predict the tsunami movement, has now indicated that the threat of tsunami so far has gone. We are still not throwing in the towel to say we are out of the woods. The question of aftershock is something that we have to take into consideration. We want to continue to advise the public to take all the necessary precautions that they can to ensure that they take careful consideration to the various messages that will be sent out through the Office of Disaster Preparedness, and to observe the instructions that will be issued. We in the government have seen where it is important that we invest significantly in educating the country about earthquake. We started a series of earthquake sensitization in the parish of Portland 2 weeks ago, because the numbers that we have would suggest that of the earthquakes that was felt on land, that the parishes of, I think, St. Andrew and Portland and St. Thomas were the two parishes that were affected mainly by that. And we started that sensitization in Portland to get the message out there. Now, earthquake is not something that one can predict, but we have put the country and our first respondent, the Jamaica Fire Brigade, in a much better position. We have provided the requisite tools for them to respond, and we have been working closely with the earthquake unit. We have been working closely with the Weather Bureau. We have been working closely with the National Works Agency to ensure that the country is in a position to respond and to respond in a positive way. I can only urge my fellow Jamaicans to ensure that we become more responsible, heed the warning, because earthquake comes without warning, but at least when we issue the various bulletins, I am asking the country not to dismiss these warnings, but to accept them and to work with us to ensure that we can at least save lives and, as best as possible to prevent major disaster.
Based on the information that is currently available, the magnitude 7.7 earthquake that occurred was 125 kilometers northwest of Lucy, which explains why the western parishes felt it so much, and a few of them had some structural damage. In terms of tsunami, we need to implore everyone that, given the closeness of such a large earthquake, it would not have been possible for us to wait for the regular tsunami warning. Each citizen needs to understand that if they are close to the shoreline and they feel such a strong earthquake, they should seek higher ground immediately and not wait for a warning, because by the time the warning would have arrived, the tsunami waves would also have arrived.
The ODPEM, we have been, since the felt tremor, we have been working assiduously along with the Jamaica Fire Brigade, the Met Office, which is the agency responsible to issue the tsunami warning in Jamaica, the municipal corporations across the island, and also the National Works Agency to get information coming from across the country. And we are continuing that effort, and we also, as Minister would have said, we are continuing the work at the ODPEM in terms of looking at the country's earthquake readiness. We would have done significant work in the past, and we would have been continuing under the guide of our minister in terms of the work that we have to do, because we realize that most persons would have experienced weather conditions in terms of hurricane, but not many persons would have experienced a major tremor. And we realize how catastrophic earthquakes can be given what would have happened in the past. So we are working as best as possible to ensure that ultimately we are protecting the country.
I have activated the Disaster Response Committee in the western parishes of the island with immediate effect. All the disaster committees have been activated and has been placed on standby just to be in a position to ensure that they have the correct information. We are asking the public to call the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management or their nearest municipal offices to provide information if there are any structural damage that has occurred during the advent of the earthquake. It is important that we get as much information from the public to help us to take the necessary actions that is deemed necessary. I want to again stress the importance of this, that this now has to become a partnership with the ODPEM and the major stakeholders and the public in general. This has to be now a partnership where we rely on those information for us to respond. For those who would want to use footage from the past to mislead the public, it is advisable that they desist from doing so. And I again would urge the public to rely on the information that will be provided by the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management, which is the authority that is so authorized to speak on issues of disaster in the country. The information that I've had, the trauma of the earthquake has affected quite a number of students. When I spoke with the mayor, he was actually on his way to the Savlamar Hospital, and at least 20 students were in the emergency department of the Savlamar Hospital awaiting treatment. And it is not just in Savlamar, but other parishes have reported cases where persons have turned up because of the effects. And one must take into consideration that this is the heaviest earthquake that you would have felt in the country since 1993. And you know, I mean, I was at my constituency office. I just sat in the chair because I couldn't believe what was happening. So it is It is not something that we should take lightly. We have seen where our neighbors in Puerto Rico, in Trinidad has had another strike again this morning that would have made probably about 10 between the end of December to the beginning of this year that our neighbors in Trinidad would have experienced. So, you know, there are after effects, although we didn't get a full strike, but there are after effects, and there are psychological issues that is associated that we will now have to look at and to see how we treat it. And this brings me to the point where we need to get into our schools now and start that sensitization on a much greater level, because as I said before, it is mainly our students that are turning up with this anxiety issue after this earthquake. The SDC office in St. Elizabeth has been affected. There's also a building in Westmoreland and one in Hanover. The technical team from the Ministry of Local Government, along with the MC and the Jamaica Fire Brigade and working with the National Works Agency, is gone out to do an assessment. And what we will be doing is, once we get the information, because all that we can give now are preliminary information on the event, but what we are doing is to update the country and to keep the country abreast of what is taking place.
That's an issue that we are been grappling with, and we are looking at. Ms. Black spoke to it earlier in terms of the information that we will get coming out of the Pacific Warning Center. It's some distance from us. And so it will take some time for us to get the information, process the information, and pass it to the general public. So what is critical, and it was said by Minister as well, that when you get those major earthquakes, persons living along the coast should move as quickly as possible, and you move to higher ground. We are in the process regionally of trying to ensure that we have a tsunami warning center in the region. And some time ago, the discussion was for Puerto Rico to house that warning center. We have to, as a region, revisit that, because if you should have a near-shore earthquake, which is something that would happen close to Jamaica, you're talking about seconds, really, in terms of difference from minutes if it is further offshore from Jamaica. So that's something that we really have to look at as a region, not only Jamaica as a country, but as a region, in terms of ensuring that we have our own tsunami warning centers in the region.
The government have set aside significant funding to respond to disaster. Those issues of tsunami warnings and other early warning systems are something that we are currently working on. Even at a level of information, there is the JICA project working closely with the Japanese government that would put us in a better position to be able to communicate and to send out early warning signals for certain kind of events across the country. The question of the tsunami warning is something of a greater magnitude. And those were discussions that the government that I personally, along with the chairman and the permanent secretary, had with the former U.S. Charge d'Affaires, Richard Kant, when he was here. And we have been having ongoing discussions with the United States on this question of tsunami. There have also been extensive training that has been undertaken by the U.S. with Jamaica and the Jamaica Defense Force on the question of tsunami. But it is something that we would love as a country. But right now, it is just a possibility of relying on the source, which is the United States, to provide this information to the country. We have to rely on our strength to say to the country that you must do this in preparation would be misleading the country. There is no signs. But once you feel it coming, there are measures that you can take. It is best to get out of a building, get out to the open. If you can't do so, get under something which will cushion the fall, get under a door jamb. You know, we are going to be intensifying, starting this week, the information that needs to go out to the general public. We have taken the decision to make this not a seasonal thing because earthquake is not seasonal. So at least every month, we are going to be having at least 2 town hall meetings. We're going to be having weekly sensitizations within the business community, within our schools. These are the measures that we think we can take. Those are the ones that are possible for us to take. And the other measures is to strengthen our capacity to respond. And also, you ask what the country can do. Build within the area so prescribed for building. Build within the requisite requirement of the building code. And buildings that are structurally weak, deficient, that are built on grounds that are not suited, must take heed. And those are advice that I want to give for persons who continue to build and build without consideration for Mother Nature.